Hello there. So this is, I guess, episode 2 of Ruby Dev Rambles, and today we are gonna talk about why there might be no patch happening anymore this year, or maybe there will, but I actually can't find the post right now. I have this feeling I announced somewhere that a patch will follow up soon after the gamepad controls reworks, but honestly the only thing I found was this, which was kind of like my 2024 roadmap. And to be fair, some things we have tackled this year, for example the reworked options menu, and somehow I didn't even talk about reworking the entire gamepad controls and everything in that roadmap, so that kind of like snuck in between everything, and that also explains to me why there is so little time. But either way, I know on the Discord people have been waiting for patches, and there will probably not be a patch for a while. And the reason is because basically while working on a patch, here this was like my 2.8 plans, and as you can see we are like, and I'm gonna leak all my to-dos. Okay, that's like a real life to-do, whatever. Yes, I have cats and I actually bought their collars with like GPS tracker, whatever. So we are like super far into the to-dos. Anytime a to-do list gets too long, as you can see, it's like very long, I start a new to-do list so I don't lose focus, I guess. And a lot of things have happened in the Tiny Rogues solution and project. In the last ramble, I explained all of this and what the steps are to fix or try to like improve visual clarity. And today I want to go more into the things that I stumbled upon while just like working on the 0.2.8 patch, and then one thing led to another. And at this point, it's just like, again, I don't want to call it scope creep. It's more like I kind of like fall into scope. Yeah. Another thing that I, by the way, made since last time is that I finally will generate these player projectiles, which were previously, as you can see, just like these sprites. I can now do these procedurally. So if I can make them bigger and smaller, and I can like do this and that. So this also is part of the entire part of a thing I want to do, which is rework some of the weapons attacks and make them more distinct in terms of like what kind of area of effect capabilities they provide, what sort of range. I finally want to fix the range stat in Tiny Rogues and make it actually work and stuff. So yeah, like, but overall the reason why there will not be a patch is because currently I'm very deep into cleaning up the Tiny Rogues project for the future. And it's kind of funny because this entire year has just been kind of like preparing Tiny Rogues for the future. First we did the cleanup update, which kind of like cleaned up the game and the effects, and we finally I think settled on a good how do you say that, like on a good design language for the entire game. And after that we kind of like, we did the gamepad controls, which now the game offers a lot of quality of life and feels more polished, and you can play it, and there's a lot more options, and the options menu can be controlled nicely and everything, right? So, and now after cleaning up the game, basically I started to clean up my code base, which is very important. And I noticed it was in dire need of clean up, because if we want to, or if I want to keep expanding upon this game, I 100% needed to do this because there was so much legacy code and useless code and old code that needed to be better. And I don't know if this is just a me problem, but the way it works is that very often I deleted scripts entirely or moved them or combined them. And so if we, for example, take a random item, if we go to equipment in resources, I don't know, an accessory, and we take the Ankh emblem, okay, that one actually works. That one too, not a good, okay, for example, the chance ring, right? So the chance ring was +1 boss reward, and I think I like changed this effect. It usually like there is like these effects that get assigned, and basically the references were broken. So if we now go chance ring, there should be a chance ring effect, and now the script is missing. So basically the chance ring is broken right now, and you can imagine that basically for a lot of items. For example, this crocodile ring isn't even showing up correctly. Maybe because, well, this one is also not looking correctly. So either way, a lot of stuff is broken right now, and this needs setting up again. But this time, it's not like I want to change the effects that much, right? So like, I think we have like there's gonna be a few changes, but overall, I'm pretty happy with it. It's just that because of the code base changes, a lot of this stuff needs to be reset up in editor. Yeah. For example, one thing that I did in Tiny Rogues now is that, and this is kind of like deep in the code now, but previously everything was an actor basically. So the player, the enemy, and even companions were actors. But yeah, and I don't actually know why my IDE is not doing syntax highlighting, so this will look very bad. But I finally split this into the player actor and the enemy actor, because at some point it just didn't make sense anymore that they were the same, and they can be much simpler now. For example, this entire inflict damage method, the player doesn't really need that. The player needs his or their own inflict damage method, because a player is more like, I take damage, and there doesn't really need to be a calculation, because an enemy always deals like 1 hard damage. I mean, there might be changes to that and it's accounted for, but an enemy doesn't have like stats that it needs to go through to check how much damage do I deal to the player, at least not in Tiny Rogues. So this was all finally like reworked, and this, for example, broke all the enemies, so I had to set up all the enemies, and then while doing that I came across like resetting up their projectiles and stuff, and then I got to that. So like it's really I just stumble from one topic to another, and I think some people would be like, yeah, but that's not necessary, the game is great, like just make content for it. But I don't know, I feel like it was necessary, and I kind of like do my thing. And if we really wanna like keep expanding upon Tiny Rogues with like all the expansions planned and everything, I really think it was important to do that. It just delays me now, and we're having the 11th of November right now. So yeah, there is not much time left in this year. So I just wanted to basically put out this PSA that there might not be a main Tiny Rogues patch this year. Obviously, Path of Exile 2 has been delayed, which gives me a little bit more time, because I'm sure I'm gonna like basically take 2 weeks or at least a week off for Path of Exile 2, where I don't work at all, because I really want to check that out. But even with that time, so we got like until December, It's not gonna be enough to repair the entire project and add new stuff and everything. But I just I also don't want to say there will be nothing, right? So like I just basically want to put this out there and say there might be something. There might be like a beta drop at some point. There might be not. I haven't even decided right now if it does make sense to like keep going with this 2024 roadmap or just start to package up some of this stuff and then start to work on Into the Abyss finally, right? And then you get this big patch sometime next year, or we bundle a lot of these changes into a smaller patch before Into the Abyss. But at this point, there is like such big changes coming that it might make sense to put it into the Abyss update. Yeah. I start to feel a little bit like a politician. I keep promising things and then I don't deliver on them. But speaking that out loud, I noticed that in fact I am not a politician because I keep bringing them up again, right? It's not like I promise something and then completely forget about it and never talk about it again. It's more like that's why the Secrets update has been announced twice so far. Cinder 20 has been announced twice so far. I don't drop the ideas. I just basically miscalculate the time schedule for it or the time I have to develop and stuff. And to be fair, I think it's kind of like impossible to calculate that stuff because I write a Steam roadmap like this, but then I go into game and I notice, oh, I want to refactor this, and then this is broken and everything needs resetting up, and time is limited. So yeah, I guess just again to sum that up, there might be beta patch. Maybe the next beta patch will be already Into the Abyss beta. I don't know at this point. I haven't decided. I just kind of like want to keep the community in the loop a little bit, what's happening, and that the entire project right now is a little bit in turmoil and getting reworked, and that's why I can't like quick pump out a patch right now because this all needs to be fixed and then I can work on new features. That being said, there are some new features already in the game, and okay, can you really call them features? Because for example, I looked at damage types at this point it's like a few weeks ago, and if we look at damage types now in Tiny Rogues, oh, I'm dumb. Needs to be damage type. Okay, it doesn't open it. Damage type. I don't know what's wrong with my writer. Yeah, so here, as you can see, there is a lot of damage types have been cut. And also there is now a new thing called a damage subtype, which might seem, I don't know, like my IDE is not working at all. Damage subtype. Yeah. So, for example, this can now be physical. Everything will be physical, but sometimes something will be slashing, thrusting, or bludgeoning. And like, we don't need explosion damage because I feel like most explosions are like fire, or if it's a shockwave, it's physical. But now we solve this with like a subtype of explosion, right? And like these are very, or like at least these two are just, they are not very common, but I want to keep them in for flavor. In fact, this one is kind of like a placeholder. I don't know yet if we will use it at all. But that's part of the, gonna be part of the update. And obviously, one thing too that happened is that I got rid of damage ranges, and I think it shows 0 physical because we are in debug mode right now, or we are not in play mode basically, and it's calculating it. But there is not any more like deal 50 to 100 physical. It's just gonna be you deal 160 physical thrusting now. And one cool part is also that now the damage effectiveness shows in like when you hold for details, it shows next to the number. And I did this because I wanted to put more emphasis on one way that I find really interesting in games of scaling damage, which is this kind of like having a fast attacking weapon and then getting or adding flat damage to it. For example, if we look at the shark tooth necklace now, it's missing, oh my god, ruby ring maybe? I don't know, it's all broken. Either way, for example, in Brotato or in Path of Exile with flat damages, I really enjoy this kind of like dichotomy of what's better for my build right now. Is it getting flat damage or getting a percentage damage increase on top of it? And very often, for example, if you'd have a bow like the rapid fire bow, you know, with a lot of attack speed. I don't know why it's dealing cold damage right now. This is again because everything kind of like needs resetting up. It's very interesting to me to add flat damage to it and scale it that way, right? So like I want to put a little bit more emphasis on that. And damage ranges have been removed because they are frankly, I noticed that I don't know why the game has them, right? Like the only damage range that has any meaning to it is like lightning a little bit. And I think this is actually like true for a lot of action games. And there is probably gonna be like a Ruby Dev Rambles episode 3 about all the stuff with damage rolls and damage ranges and stuff. But yeah, I guess the only features I'm showing off right now is that I removed stuff. As you can see, even when we go in-game, there are immediately errors. I don't even know why the CRT is pumped up that much. Yeah, like a lot of meta nodes are also broken right now. You can see it's just not a good state. Also, the Ranger is starting with no gear right now, but try chakrams because I was trying bouncing projectiles and reworking them a bit, but I actually wanted to show something else, which is gonna be the we need to go into the place here, which is gonna be the reworked armor mechanic, and we're gonna spawn one target dummy without armor. And as you can see, there is a new bar for each enemy. And the bar is the armor bar. And because previously armor was basically just health, and again, it was kind of like one of those dead features that made no sense. Like, okay, flavor-wise, it was okay, but yeah. And the basic idea of armor in Tiny Rogues will now be that it protects enemies from small hits, and the more damage you deal, the less the armor mitigates. And the way it does it is very simple. It and we can actually look at this in the enemy actor if my IDE allows me to open it. Basically, the way it works is that it's just your damage minus the enemy armor, but it's capped at 50%, right? So if we hit this guy, you can see, and maybe we make it a little bit louder. Also, why is this short bow bouncing? Whatever. So it's kind of like dealing a lot less damage to this guy, and the armor bar is showing that the armor is dealing a lot of damage to him. Yeah. So if you would penetrate, like if you do a harder hit, but this target dummy has like 10,000 armor or whatever, right? Like, so we're not gonna penetrate through its armor. So it's basically showing it's getting very much protected, but for a weaker enemy, you might be like seeing that every like the armor only blocks 50% of it. So this armor bar is very smart, and if the enemy doesn't have armor, it obviously doesn't show at all. And also you can see there is new damage numbers. So the damage numbers now have like multiple axes to them. This is like the normal damage. And the crits look also a little bit different now. Right. I think it's pretty satisfying. And one thing that's also happening is that the damage number is kind of like being reused. As you can see, it's bouncing. Obviously, like when something changes, like a lucky hit, then a new one is changed. But I really like it this way because it's still juicy, but you can actually like use the damage number, right? Like previously in Tiny Rogues, because there was damage rolls and because they spawned so many, like, okay, like damage numbers are like, they were kind of useless, right? But now it's like very clear. We're attacking these two guys and we see that one is armored and the other not. And we see that we deal 158 damage for some reason. I don't know why it's less than that, but yeah. So that's a thing. And you might be wondering like, okay, RubyDev, why are you like doing that? Even like, why are you reworking armor? Why are you talking about area of effect of weapons and stuff like that? And I'm just gonna say there will be a lot of changes in terms of weapons, and well, the essence of the weapon will stay the same, but it will be more communicated that every weapon is good at something different. And so for example, a few of these differences, like these axes, could be how much AoE it does, how much range it has, how good it is against armor or not, right? And basically the entire game will go a little bit away from what it is right now of just like, okay, what deals the most damage? I just need damage and it solves all my problems, right? Like currently in Tiny Rogues, the only problem that you face is that you want to deal more damage. But there's barely a choice of like, okay, I kind of like want area of effect. I want to be good against armor. I want to be good against single target and so on, right? So like, I call this kind of like tool-based design. And so I look at weapons more as tools than a weapon. I feel like it's actually a problem to look at weapons as a weapon, because when you hear the word weapon, it's kind of like a thing that deals damage, right? And it immediately like puts you in the mindset of this is a thing that deals damage. But let's look at weapons as tools to overcome challenges, right? So I'm not going to look at weapons as weapons anymore, but I'm going to look at them as tools. And that way weapons can feel more distinct and it can be like communicated better to the player in what situation they need what weapon, so what tool they want. And so for example, there's going to be stuff like even more horde encounters, like, right, like I started to tip my toes into it with the entire Cinder modifier of spawning a lot of mobs, but there might be a lot more of that. There will be armored enemies right now, right? There is going to be like multiple things you have to consider throughout a run that you will have to overcome, and you can't just build damage. You have to make choices that will compensate, right? Like you might have a bow that is long range and has like almost no AoE capabilities, so you might either need another weapon that fixes your AoE, or you will need like a trait, right, that fixes your AoE or whatever. At least that's a plan, and that will take a lot of effort, and that will be a huge part of Into the Abyss, of offering many new challenges and challenges that promote use of different tools. And the one thing that I also want to immediately mention about like tool-based design is that I'm very aware of not making this like, how do you say that, like a puzzle piece, right? Like I don't want it to be the only thing you can do against armor is having armor penetration, right? Like, no, that's why armor is designed in a way where a slow hitting weapon or a damage over time effect or anything else would also overcome it. So to any problem that I pose to you, there will be multiple solutions in the game, and that way your tools that you get offered throughout a run can be diverse and lead to replayability and lead to many different runs. Okay, this video is giga long at this point. It's like almost 30 minutes. If anybody watches it fully, thank you for watching. This was a little preview, and I will keep you up to date on the Discord, I guess. And again, there might be a patch in 2024. There might be a beta update. There might be not. I just wanted to put this out there, and yeah. Anything else to say? Not really. This will accompany a Steam post, and I'll link both YouTube videos in that Steam post, and the Steam post will be a lot shorter, but whatever, you probably read the Steam post before. That's it from me. Thank you for playing Tiny Rogues, and thank you for your understanding, and thank you for sticking with me. And I'm very hyped for the future, and I'm very hyped to get to keep developing this weird little game for you all. Have a nice week.